Well, now that Congress is done wasting our time and money on the worst piece of political theater since Our American Cousin, they can get back to wasting it in more traditional ways, like plucking it from our wallets and stuffing it directly into the pockets of crooks and con artists, all while insisting that such crime disguised as caretaking is the only hope that us peasants have at reaching any sort of prosperity. And so history's most popularly elected undead corpse is off to push his stimulus plan in Wisconsin this week. Help us, Joby Wan, you're our only hope. Another multi-trillion-dollar federal spending package will surely fix it this time. The story is always framed as though the pandemic is what's causing the hardship and not government force telling us we're too stupid to earn money for ourselves safely or to spend it ourselves wisely. Although if you're one of these people who looks at Joe and thinks, yeah, that guy can manage my money way better than I can, I guess they might have a point. And the selling point is always urgency. This time it's the urgency of federally subsidized unemployment benefits expiring. We have to act now or millions of jobless people will lose their payouts. Funny how urgency always carries heavy packages of unrelated opportunism along with it as well. Remember, we're fresh off, we have to act now or that Sri Lankan boat won't get refurbished. We have to act now or Pakistanis will remain woefully backward in their views on gender. Before that, it was we have to act now or all those businesses that the government shut down will have to shut down. In all the talk of urgency, we forget the only urgency that matters. The urgency with which we should protect our fundamental freedom. The urgency with which we should remember that in tough times, the best decisions about caretaking come from ourselves and our families, not some all-knowing federal overlord who will run our lives better than we do. And another cost of the urgency is just plain sloppiness. As long as we're moving this fast because it's an emergency, we aren't taking the time to evaluate if the urgency by which we've been operating is actually producing results. So before we try bending the knee again to beg for another check of Corona funny money, it'd be prudent to evaluate what we bent the knee for last time. And it turns out we bent the knee for crooks and con men. I wasn't exaggerating. That is the headline of an NBC News report from Saturday. How billions in pandemic aid was swindled by con artists and crime syndicates. In terms of the numbers, investigators estimate that at least $63 billion and likely well beyond $100 billion in $630 billion of total disbursements was misspent. That's something between 10 and 16%, and that's just what we know about. For the overwhelming majority of ongoing phony unemployment claims, the culprits have not been caught, the report says, and state estimates are much higher. In California, officials estimate up to $30 billion, 27% of the state's relief spending, was outright stolen from taxpayers. In Nebraska, investigators believe 66% of unemployment money was misspent. Quoted in the story, a senior federal law enforcement official familiar with the investigation says the fraud is so complex and multi-layered that it will take months to develop a full accounting. In other words, the government is going to take more of your money to account for how they wasted so much of your money last time around because it's so complex and multi-layered. No, it isn't. All of the featured fraud examples are laughably simple. Consider what this story highlights. In Orange County, California, an entire business was built solely on unemployment fraud. Win Social Services was established just for the purpose of filing fake unemployment claims and paying out customers for the low price of $700. The deal was so good, customers were lined up around the block to get their backpacks stuffed with cash. That is not complex. That is literally in plain sight, like this is Black Friday at Best Buy. Other cases described are just typical identity theft. Steal someone's information and claim benefits in their name. This can be done through data breach information posted on the dark web. That's the biggest chunk of it. Or it can be done by foreign crime rings getting your information through phishing emails. Yeah, it's so complex and multi-layered when Nigerian princes email you to tell you there's a pile of Corona bucks in your name. They just need your social to send it over. Who could have foreseen this entirely common, predictable form of fraud that's been happening for decades? The only thing even remotely complex is this particular piece of nightmare fuel. Fair warning, to pass certain facial recognition checks, fraudsters have used 3D printers to create masks of identity theft victims' faces. And that was, apparently, successful. I don't know what's scarier, the mask itself or the fact that it worked. It's so fake that only a government bureaucrat could possibly consider it passable. So outside of the weird face printing thing, none of these things are new, complex tactics. These are proven, repeated strategies. And the story admits it. It says in the subheader that the schemes are so complex that the government can't keep up, but admits more quietly in the body of the story that actually these fraud methods are not especially sophisticated. Well, that's not a problem of tactics then. That's not a problem of criminal advancement. That's a problem of scale. That's a problem of government bloated so massively that even basic oversight of simple forms of abuse is an impossibility. And of course, the ease and the scale of that fraud means what? It means that the honest guy who did the right thing and surrendered his job or his business for the greater good under the premise that government would take care of him in the meantime is at a competitive disadvantage. So he gets the screw from both the government and the fraudsters. The story mentions Michael Webb, a 41-year-old former business owner from Lexington, Kentucky, who just received a 1099 that shows $13,000 in benefits that were claimed in his name. He filed for unemployment in March and has been repeatedly trying since, unable to make a claim successfully and confused about why. Well, this is why. Because someone already took his share. A father of three, Webb says, quote, "We are this close to losing everything." And it sounds like he's already lost close to everything. I assume former business owner doesn't refer to something he owned 10 years ago. But thanks, Michael. We're all in this together while we steal what money you do have and give it to someone else fraudulently and shut down your ability to make any more of it. Now, I'm not on board with the premise that this entire event is the emergency it's been sold as, but let's say that it is. If so, it has totally exposed our backward philosophy on emergency response. We've largely accepted the idea that an emergency means you lay down and wait for somebody to come save you. But that's exactly the opposite of what an emergency means. An emergency means your own self-sufficiency has never been more important. An emergency means it's on you to help yourself and your family first and foremost. An emergency means that you can help yourself far more, far quicker, far better than anybody else can. The more we live by the idea that an emergency means we all assume the fetal position in the corner and suckle our thumbs until Uncle Sam comes to cradle us, the more emergencies we will have imposed upon us. We keep demanding the government bottle, and then we're shocked when there aren't enough bottles to go around. So we can keep waiting on that bottle that's never coming, or we can stop needing the bottle in the first place. We can take control of our own lives for ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, we can manage them better than some tin pot dinosaur 1,000 miles away who doesn't give a shit about us and isn't mentally capable of it, even if he wanted to. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Gab, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.